that's dealt with. Let's talk about now the positivity side of it.
Yeah.
You've had a few bumps on the road, as you say there.
Yeah, it took me a long time to get it right. There were lots of offers of help, and I think you have to recognise the trouble, and you have to be ready to take that help, and humble enough to take it, which took me a bit of a while. I'd sort of been used to being someone who was quite effective, quite successful at some things, someone who sorted stuff out for other people, and it was very hard for me to say, I'm in real trouble here. Will you just walk with me from work to the bus stop, because I don't think I can get past the cart without buying alcohol. That sort of humility. It took me a lot to do that. So my own kind of arrogance was part of it. And then I think you also need the right kind of help for you at the right time. So different people respond to different things. Some people fit in really well with 12-step programs. Some people fit in really well with other kind of programs, group work. Some people fit in with one-to-one. For a while, I had considerable help from a drug called antabuse, which makes you really ill when you take alcohol. But I couldn't get honest enough to keep myself taking the tablets every day. So I was prescribed it, would game the tablets so that I could drink.
And in your head, you dealt with it by saying, I don't need today?
I think I felt I needed to drink because I needed to change the way I felt. Right. I couldn't get myself honest at that stage. Yeah. And I couldn't recognise, actually, that staying sober relied on me being honest, because as soon as you're into that world of lies, you have to drink to cover up the shame. But there was obviously something in me that wanted to be sober, because I put myself on a plane, took myself off to Latvia and had an implant of the same drug. So stays.
You can lose control. It's just.
So it's being released into your bloodstream, and that worked while it worked.
Did you test it ever?
I did the second time round. I didn't the first time round. So I did this twice, and the first year it worked a charm. In my head there was just no. I don't know. It doesn't take away cravings. It makes you ill if you drink, but for some reason I was relieved of any cravings. So in my head, it was suddenly non-negotiable. I didn't have to have this argument with myself. Can I drink to take away this pain? Because no, I'd end up in hospital and A&E, and everybody would know, and that was that. The second time around, I did test it, and that didn't go so well.
Because it did what it says on the packet, did it?
It did what it says on the packet.
You were very ill about it.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy that you know it's going to happen? Well,
yeah.
And then you still put yourself through it.
Well, it shows the power of an addiction, I think. There's a word that I came across when I was, just about everybody in the world's had the top off my head and had a look inside to try and help me. Yeah. And a word I came across was it becomes the salient need in your life. So it's sort of the dominant thing that you're trying to plan for every single day, which is really painful to admit. I can't tell you the number of times people said to me, don't you love your daughters enough to stop? Yes, you do, but this craving is... Okay. It's where, I don't know how to describe it.
Where are you now?
So where I am now is over 2 years sober.
Do you do that every day thing? You go to AA or whatever?
I don't count the days now. I count anniversaries. So I was, after all of that drama, trying different ways to get sober in different programs over several years. Things got really bad. I went to prison for double drink driving, twice in the 1 week. That's how bad it was. And not being able to see my girls in those weeks, and my girls having to know that their mum was in hospital, which must have been just... The worry for them must have been incredible. The feeling of being let down, the puzzlement, the bafflement, yeah. So all of that. But at the end of that, I was really fortunate in that I was sent away to rehab. And I went to a place called Littledale Hall in Lancashire for 9 months. 9 months is a long time to get sent to rehab. Do
you stay there until you're ready to leave, or was it 9 months?
It was 9 months
program.
So I was really lucky. The NHS over here sends a certain number of people to rehab, and they give them a good long chunk. Whereas in the UK, because budgets are being cut, a lot of the people I was in with had only 3 months. Right. And the statistics show that the longer you have in rehab, the far more likely it is to work. So I at the time when I went, this felt like a a disaster. I can't be away for 9 months from my girls.
Yeah.
You know, they'll forget me. Thank God they didn't. And actually, I'm glad I needed every minute of it. And on advice, I also stayed away for another 6 months afterwards so that I could be out in the community working, coming up against lots of tests, and see that I could apply things without coming back here to the Isle of Man, because it can be quite triggery coming back to partly the old places and people that you used to drink around, old associations, and partly the emotions that come up with it, because not everybody's delighted to see you in good shape, or you can imagine that everybody's looking at you thinking, oh, look, she wobbled there, maybe she's been drinking again, so you can do it to yourself. But there can be a lot of emotion in that. Being on the same landmass as my girls again, and not seeing them as much as I'd love to, that can be quite challenging sometimes. So I think it was the right thing to do, to be away for a bit longer and practice, because the rehab that I was at, absolutely fantastic place. It was not just taught regime, so groups and some theory, it was also a lived regime, so you're actually practicing putting that pause between feeling intense emotion and acting on it.
Okay, venting like all this thing. I mean, I've asked you in here today. How is it for you saying this story? I mean, is it helpful to you, or is it really painful? Or
that's a really good question. I can get so right now I feel okay. I'll watch myself for the rest of the day. I'll probably go and hang out with some friends and talk about things, because when you look back at that shame and emotion and so on, it is possible to be back in it, not just looking at it, but back in it, and that can be a risk. I'm lucky in that I've learned a lot about that, and now I think I know how to handle those things, not just the ones that you can plan for. So I knew that I was coming here today, and I've planned for that, but also the things that come out of the blue. I go to recovery groups regularly. I also take a recovery group. I'm just a facilitator. I've still got my training wheels on, but that is great.